These 3 plants grow only in Norway. And Big Pharma doesn't want you to know about them. Snow falls slowly across an empty, frozen fjord. A mysterious melody plays. Wind howls through a vast pine forest. A cloaked figure walks slowly through deep snow, carrying a leather pouch. Deep in the Arctic North, where the sun vanishes for months and silence becomes your only companion, there are plants that don't grow anywhere else on Earth. Plants the Vikings once used for healing. Plants that modern pharmaceutical companies desperately want you to forget. Because if the world knew their power, $1 billion industry might crumble. Camera zooms into a rugged cliffside in northern Norway. A small golden-leafed plant clings to the rocks. They call it the Arctic root. Its real name? Rhodiola Rosea. It doesn't grow in gardens or meadows. It grows where nothing else dares, on ice-slick cliffs, in freezing winds, above the clouds. But its story begins in Soviet Russia. Cut to black and white footage of athletes training in snow. In the 1970s, Russian scientists were looking for ways to enhance performance, not with chemicals, but with nature. What they found in rhodiola shocked them. This golden root increased oxygen use, reduced fatigue, and sharpened mental focus. Cosmonauts, Olympians, elite soldiers. All were given rhodiola. Secretly. Because its effects were too powerful to reveal. Cut to a modern lab. Scientists looking at brain scans. Modern research confirms it. Rhodiola increases serotonin, reduces cortisol, and improves symptoms of depression and burnout. But the FDA still says there's not enough evidence. Why? Because if you could treat mental burnout with a root from Norway, who would buy antidepressants? Transition to a misty valley with ancient wooden cabins. A soft green plant sways in the cold wind. In the time of plagues, when death swept through Europe like wildfire, the monks turned to a plant they believed was sent by angels. Cut to medieval-style illustration of monks grinding herbs. They named it Angelica, the angel's herb. It grew near monasteries in northern Europe, especially in Norway. Its stems were made into tonics. Its roots into tea. And when nothing else worked, Angelica often did. Modern scene, elderly Norwegian woman preparing herbal tea. Modern studies show Angelica contains furanocoumarins, natural compounds that combat infections, reduce inflammation, and stimulate the immune system. But ask your doctor about Angelica today, and they might not even know it exists. Question in voiceover: why did it disappear from modern prescriptions? Why was the angel's herb buried? Answer: tone deepens, because it can't be patented. Because it grows wild. Because healing with Angelica means fewer pills. Fewer profits. Cut to a golden berry glistening in the tundra under the midnight sun. It's rarer than gold. Found only in specific Arctic regions, for a few short weeks a year. It's called the cloudberry. Or in Norway, Multberry. Cut to drone footage of hikers searching for berries in remote wetlands. Every summer, Norwegians trek miles into the wilderness to find them. Because inside this golden fruit is something priceless. Cut to lab animation: antioxidants, vitamin C, ellagic acid. Cloudberries contain 4x the antioxidants of blueberries. Vitamin C levels rival oranges. And ellagic acid, a compound being studied for its anti-cancer potential. Some families freeze them to last the entire year. Voiceover, whispering: but here's the mystery. Why are they priced higher than caviar in some markets? Why can't you find them in your local supermarket? Because nature made them rare. And industry made them exclusive. Visual: a small wooden cabin buried in snow. Inside, the warm glow of a fire. A woman, aged but strong, sits at a wooden table surrounded by jars of dried herbs. Her name is Ingrid. She's lived alone in the mountains of Nordland for over 30 years. The nearest road is 12 kilometers away. The winters last 9 months. And doctors? She hasn't seen one in over a decade. Camera pans over her daily routine: walking through snow, picking herbs, brewing tea. 10 years ago, Ingrid was diagnosed with severe seasonal depression. Her doctor gave her 3 medications, one for sleep, one for energy, and one for mood. But none of them worked. The side effects were worse than the symptoms. Ingrid's voice, soft, with subtitles: I felt like a ghost. Like the snow outside had crept inside me. Until she remembered what her grandmother once taught her: the forest has its own medicine. So Ingrid turned to three things: the golden root from the cliffs, the angel herb from the marshes, and the golden berry from the wetlands. Each morning, she brewed a tea from Rhodiola Rosea. Within 2 weeks, the fog in her mind began to lift. Her energy returned, slow at first, then steady. The racing thoughts began to fade. Visual, her journaling. Smiling gently. Walking outside. At night, she sipped a tonic from Angelica, the same herb monks once used to survive the plague. Her immune system strengthened. Her digestion improved. The chronic fatigue began to disappear. And once a week, only when the sun kissed the mountains in midsummer, Ingrid would gather cloudberries. She called them drops of light. She preserved them in jars, eating 1 spoonful a day through the darkness of winter. And the glow in her skin? It was real. Cut to a modern researcher speaking anonymously: "We know these plants work. The data is clear. But they're not profitable. They can't be owned. So they're ignored." Quick montage of pharmaceutical ads, warning labels, and pill bottles. In a world where pills are pushed like candy, the idea that a root, or a berry, or a leaf could do more, terrifies an entire industry. You won't see these plants advertised on TV. You won't find them at your local pharmacy. And you won't hear your doctor recommend them. Unless they've escaped the system. Visual, maps of Norway glowing with herbal regions. A whispering wind overlays the narration. But in the wild places of the north, their power still grows. Waiting. Visual, Ingrid outside her cabin, writing a letter. Ingrid, with English subtitles: "I'm not saying everyone should live like me. But I know this: nature didn't forget us. We just forgot to listen. In a world where people buy chemical pills without ever asking why, nature still holds its secrets. Secrets that don't make billions. Secrets that heal without warning labels. And maybe that's why no one told you about them." Subscribe now. Because here, we reveal what ads don't. Nature's truths. Unfiltered. Untouched. And more powerful than you ever imagined. Visual, a dimly lit library under a mountain. Bookshelves stretching to the ceiling. A gloved hand opens an old, leather-bound book. In 1912, a Norwegian botanist named Henrik Olsted documented something strange. While researching Rhodiola Rosea, he noticed villages in northern Norway that had almost no cases of depression, despite living in total darkness for months. He linked it to the villagers' use of local herbs and cloudberries. But when he submitted his research to European medical journals, it was rejected. Repeatedly. Cut to a scanned journal marked "rejected" in red ink. Olsted's work disappeared. His findings never made it to textbooks. He died in obscurity. Whispered voiceover, but his journals were found. 87 years later. Hidden in the basement of a closed university in Bergen. DNA emoji, scientific facts, hidden in plain sight scene, animated breakdown of compounds in the 3 plants. Rhodiola Rosea contains salidroside, reduces fatigue, boosts dopamine. Rosavin, enhances cellular energy production. Tyrosol, neuroprotective, supports memory. Angelica Archangelica contains angelicin, antibacterial, antifungal. Coumarins, support liver detox, anti-anxiety. Volatile oils, reduce inflammation in the gut and lungs. Cloudberries are packed with vitamin C, over 150 mg per 100 grams, 3x that of oranges. Elligotannins, potent antioxidant with anti-cancer potential. Omega-3 precursors from its seeds. The science is there. The tradition is alive. So why don't you know about them? Detective emoji, the economic angle, follow the money cut to a sleek boardroom. Executives in suits, graphs of pharmaceutical profits on screens. In 2022, global antidepressant sales reached $16.8 billion. The immune-boosting supplement market? $22.6 billion. And skincare antioxidants? Over $170 billion. What happens to these numbers? If people discover a wild root that costs nothing to grow, a leaf that replaces 5 synthetic drugs, and a berry that reverses aging, you silence the knowledge. You erase the history. You patent the synthetic copy, and ban the natural original. EU bans wild Angelica export, cloudberry harvesting restricted, rhodiola classified as novel food, requires approval. Meiji Moji, myth meets medicine. Visual, storybook pages flipping, illustrations of Norse gods and Viking healers. The Vikings didn't just fight with axes. They healed with herbs. Rhodiola was believed to be a gift from the frost giants. Angelica was offered to newborns for protection. And cloudberries? Were reserved for warriors returning from battle, to regenerate the body and soul. Whispered, myth. Or ancient science in disguise? Older person emoji, return to Ingrid, her final words seen, snow melting around her cabin. Spring arrives. Ingrid picks the first sprout of rhodiola. Ingrid, soft voice, I'm 74. I've never felt stronger. The forest gave me more than any prescription ever did. And it never asked for anything in return. We live in a world where nature's power is filtered, forgotten, and forbidden. But somewhere deep inside, we remember. We remember that healing doesn't have to come with side effects. That wellness doesn't have to be bought. That nature is not a supplement, it's the source. If you've ever felt that something's missing from modern medicine, it's because something is. And maybe, just maybe, that something is growing wild in the forests of Norway. Subscribe now. Because we're just getting started. And the next secret is even wilder than this one.